Like many aspects of the memorial itself, our objective was to take something complex, in this case, the layers of meaningful information infused in the names arrangement, and portray it as simply as possible. This is the landing page of the site showing the memorial looking north. Most broadly, the names are organized into 9 groups, 1 for the victims of the February 26, 1993 bombing, 2 for the Twin Towers, 4 for the hijacked flights, 1 for the Pentagon, and 1 for first responders. Within these groupings, the names of victims from each company or agency, or, for example, the passengers aboard a flight, appear together. Here, by searching for Cantor Fitzgerald, you can see the names of the 658 Cantor employees, everyone in the company's offices that morning, and where they are inscribed around the North Memorial Pool. The most personal and meaningful aspect of the names arrangement is its ability to reflect the relationships that existed between victims. Some of the most heartbreaking stories are those of entire families aboard the hijacked flights. Daniel Brandhorst and Ronald Gamboa had changed their travel plans so they could return home from vacation with their 3-year-old son, David, on United 175. Daniel and Ronald's names appear alongside one another, something that would not have been possible through an alphabetical arrangement. Also aboard Flight 175 was the Hansen family, who lived an hour outside Boston. As I mentioned at the beginning of my remarks, the youngest victim on 9/11 was only 2.5 years old. That was Christine Lee Hansen. As with all families on the memorial, her name appears below the side-by-side names of her parents, Peter and Sue. Within seconds of Flight 11's crash into the North Tower, the FDNY and NYPD dispatched units to the World Trade Center. Among the more than 400 first responders who died on 9/11, there were brothers like John and Joseph Vigiano, who had both, in different ways, devoted their lives to serving others. John was a firefighter with FDNY Ladder 132, and Joseph a detective in NYPD Squad 2. In order for their names to be together, the FDNY section ends with John's unit, and then the NYPD section begins with Joseph's. The first responders arrangement began with their names alongside one another and grew out from there, with other requested adjacencies and units falling into place to the left and to the right. The entire arrangement will appear as a continuous, unbroken flow of names that extends around both memorial pools. The last agency to appear in this section is the Port Authority Police Department, and the last name among the PAPD officers is Donald James McIntyre. When Officer McIntyre heard that a plane had flown into the World Trade Center, he called his cousin, Maureen Sherry, knowing that her husband John worked at Eurobrokers on the 84th floor of the South Tower. Before he hung up, he told her he was on his way to get John and was going to bring him to safety, but neither man made it out of Tower 2 before it collapsed. Because of this request, this adjacency request, the first responders group, ending with Donald's name, is immediately followed by the World Trade Center group, beginning with John's name and the names of his colleagues at Eurobrokers. Many visitors to the memorial will not have known the individuals who were killed, or they may know only of a friend or a neighbor from years past, or even a name they heard for the first time in the days and weeks after 9/11. So many know the story of passenger Todd Beamer, who left behind his wife, pregnant with their first child, and was famously heard rallying the other passengers with the phrase, "Let's roll." One way Todd's father has chosen to honor his son's memory is by serving on our board, and it's an honor to have David Beamer's unique perspective on the story of Flight 93 and the legacy of the incredibly courageous passengers aboard. Some families responded to our outreach in 2009 with many requests. The family of Angela M. Houts, a 27-year-old Navy professional, requested 7 different personal adjacencies, all now permanently listed around Houts' name on the memorial. When we spoke to her mother, she explained that they had all been in the same conference room together, responding to the attacks in New York when Flight 77 hit the Pentagon. Many requested adjacencies are among family, spouses, siblings, parents, and children. Some are more unusual, though, between people who barely knew each other but who connected in the chaos of that morning. One pair is Victor Wald, a stockbroker and the only victim from Avalon Partners, and Harry Ramos, the head trader and only victim from May Davis. That morning, Victor tried to descend the stairs, but found it difficult to keep going, and he stopped around the 55th floor of the South Tower to wait for help. Many people passed, but according to witnesses, Harry stopped and told them plainly, "I'm not going to leave you." When Victor's wife confirmed his name to our staff, she asked that Harry's appear next to it, in a handwritten note to us that explained this man, Harry Ramos, who before Flight 11 hit Tower 1 had been a stranger to her husband, quote, died alongside him. Finally, some adjacencies connect names on the memorial with people today. On the North Pool, the World Trade Center section begins with the 293 names of the employees of Marsh McLennan, immediately following the names of those aboard Flight 11. Among the passengers was Richard Barry Ross. It's absolutely heartbreaking that his oldest daughter, Abigail, lost not only her dad, but also her best friend, Stacy Lee Sanders, who was at her new job at Marsh on the 96th floor of the North Tower when Flight 11, Richard's flight, crashed into it. When Abby comes to the memorial on the 10th anniversary, I know that she will take comfort in seeing the names of the people she loves so much alongside one another forever. These stories are a few of thousands. They connect the names to each other and us to them. And while I know this sometimes can be hard to hear, these stories, to many they are also comforting. They remind us how much the different connections in our lives are what really matter most. And understanding these connections and seeing the names inscribed in bronze, that is the heart of the memorial. It is our hope that standing in front of the parapets as water descends the sides of the voids where the towers once stood, under a canopy of trees, it will provide all our visitors with a significant experience, be it inspiring, comforting, or something else entirely personal. Now, 74 days from the opening of the memorial on September 11th, 2011, so many of the memorial's signature elements are in place. The pools